name is Aaron Whitfield, and today I want to tell you a story about the years I spent being treated like a shadow in my own family. They told me I had wasted everything. My mother no longer called me her son in public. My father only spoke to me when he needed someone to correct. At family dinners, I was always placed at the far edge of the table, close enough to refill glasses, never close enough to matter. What they didn't see was that I had built something real, something that restored dignity to people who'd been forgotten. Yet at home, none of it counted, because I hadn't finished medical school. The cruel twist? The woman my brother is preparing to marry once looked me straight in the eye and whispered, "You're the reason I still have my grandfather's voice." That single moment tore through years of silence. Before I go further, if you're listening right now, drop a quick comment and let me know where you are in the world. Every time I hear from someone, it reminds me these stories matter. That evening was supposed to belong to my younger brother Daniel. The hall glowed with polished glasses, linen napkins folded sharp as origami, and the hushed sound of money in the air. Everyone smiled like they were performing for some invisible scorecard. My mother guided me ahead of time and quietly gestured toward the worst seat, next to the kitchen doors, where servers brushed past without even saying sorry. "Just tonight," she murmured, as if seating me like clutter was a reasonable favor. From there I watched Daniel charm Claire Morton's parents, his laugh practiced, his suit pressed. Business degree, investment office, the family star. Claire, though, she was different. Her glow wasn't staged. Halfway through dinner, with the music dimmed and people drifting into small talk, she turned toward me with curiosity instead of pity. "So, Aaron," she asked gently, "what kind of work do you do?" I hesitated, then answered plainly, "I run a platform that helps older folks get used to digital tools." Her expression shifted. "Wait, MindBridge?" I nodded. She leaned forward, her voice cracking with recognition. "You're the founder?" It wasn't loud, but the room froze. Daniel stopped mid-sentence. My mother's glass paused at her lips. My father stared like he'd misheard. And then Claire stood, no hesitation, her chair scraping softly across the floor. "My grandfather stopped speaking to anyone after my grandmother passed," she said. "We thought he was gone in every way but breath. But then someone at his care facility set up MindBridge. Suddenly he was sending voice notes. He even called my brother on his birthday. That's because of Aaron." The table went silent. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of eyes on me, not with shame, but with respect. Claire's gratitude pierced deeper than anything my family had ever offered. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. My mother's lips twitched between uneasy and proud. Daniel sat stiff, unreadable. That night, for the first time in over 11 years, I didn't feel invisible. Claire's eyes had done what my own parents never could, made me feel seen. I'm 34 now. I live in a small loft above a thrift shop in Fairhaven, Montana, a place that smells of worn pages and second chances. Once, I was supposed to be the Whitfield family's shining hope, the firstborn, perfect grades, admitted early to Crestview Medical School. My father's eyes used to light up when I spoke about anatomy. My mother bragged at church, "Our future surgeon." But in my second year of college, I slipped, not in flames, but like a slow fade. I skipped labs, missed exams, and one day stopped showing up entirely. No dramatic breakdown, just emptiness. Over the phone, my mother said softly, "Maybe you just need rest." Then she told raw relatives I was taking time to recalibrate. That was nearly 12 years ago, and from then on I was the son no one mentioned without hesitation. I floated through odd jobs, warehouse nights, diner shifts, hauling wedding rentals, enough to cover bills, never enough to feel alive. Then one afternoon, while delivering coffee to a senior residence, I saw an elderly woman gripping a digital pad, tears streaking her face. "My daughter says this is simple," she whispered, "but I can't see her face." I knelt, helped her open the video call app, and her daughter's face appeared. The woman cried like she'd been returned to the world. That was the first spark of MindBridge. That woman at the senior residence clutched her digital pad, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Baby, baby," again and again. I stood there stunned, something inside me shifting. The next day I went back, then the day after. Before long, I was showing up wherever older folks gathered, community halls, corner cafes, even quiet church basements, helping them learn how to send texts, make calls, or see their grandkids' faces on a screen. At first, it wasn't a business. It wasn't even a plan. It was survival. Something to force me out of bed when nothing else did. Years later, the work had a name, MindBridge. No glossy branding, no big launch, just a bridge between generations. My parents never asked about it. To them, I remained the dropout who couldn't get back on track. But at 2:45 a.m., I'd open my inbox and see a message from someone in rural Montana saying, "You helped me hear my sister's voice again." Those words mattered more than any framed diploma my parents had wished for. The days before Daniel's celebration dinner, I visited my parents' house, hoping against hope for a sliver of warmth. The place hadn't changed. Lawn trimmed sharp, ceramic angels still by the porch steps, wind chimes ringing the same soft notes they had the day I left for college. Inside, though, the walls told a different story. A brand new photo gallery lined the hallway. Every frame was Daniel's victory, his graduation at Wharton, vineyard trips with Claire, a staged family portrait with her parents dressed in slate and beige like they'd choreographed happiness itself. I searched for myself and found a single photo shoved low, nearly hidden near the floorboards. I must have been 10, grinning awkwardly with braces, holding a kite with a torn string from our trip to Silvergate National Park. The glass was cracked, never replaced. I stepped over it like it was just another forgotten doormat. Dinner smelled familiar, roast chicken and potatoes, the same meal from my childhood. My mother hummed while laying the plates. My father scrolled his tablet. Daniel arrived late, apologizing, a red blend bottle in hand. Claire had a dress fitting, he explained. Midway through the meal, I slipped into the kitchen for water. On my way back, I froze when I heard my mother's voice on speakerphone. Daniel has always chosen the safe path. Not like Aaron. His dreams were always too big for his hands. I gripped the glass tight. When I sat back down, I smiled as though nothing happened. No one noticed, because no one ever did. That night, in my small loft above the thrift shop, I opened an old email I'd sent them months before. Subject line, I got featured. It was a link to an online broadcast interview, where I explained how MindBridge grew from cafes to pilot programs funded by the state. Over 20,000 people had listened. My family never opened it. The analytics told me so. 0 views from a Whitfield email address. I still had the old earphones with taped wires I used for that interview. The padding cracked, the cord splitting near the plug. I wrapped them carefully and tucked them away in a box under my desk, like I was burying the hope that one day my family might listen and hear pride in my voice. The next family gathering was a toast to Daniel's promotion to a lead advisor role. My father raised his glass. My mother's eyes welled. A cousin joked about wedding bands. Laughter spread like smoke around the table. No one asked about me. I smiled and passed the salt. Weeks later, a submission arrived in our MindBridge system. Subject line, Stories That Matter. The name read, Emily M. At first, I didn't connect it to Claire. I assumed it was just another user story. But when I clicked the video, I froze. Claire sat beside her grandfather, a man in his early 80s with hands lined like parchment, posture bent, but eyes that still burned with quiet strength. She held his arm gently as she spoke. After Grandpa's minor stroke, he stopped talking. He wouldn't leave the house. He ignored every call. We thought he was slipping away from us piece by piece. Then someone at his care facility set up MindBridge. At first, he resisted. But then, she motioned to him. The old man lifted his hand in a shy wave. Now he calls us every Tuesday, Claire continued. He sends little voice notes. He even ordered a digital stargazing guide online. He's always loved the stars. And last night he told me, this makes me feel like I'm still part of the world. I sat frozen. unable to breathe. Then Claire's voice cracked. I don't know who started Mindbridge, but whoever you are, thank you. You didn't just give my grandfather a way to speak again. You reminded him he was still alive. I stared at the screen as Claire's grandfather clasped her hand, unaware that the man who built the bridge connecting them was sitting in the shadows of her future family. She didn't know Daniel even had a brother, let alone one who had created the very thing that gave her grandfather back his voice, and yet, unknowingly, she had thanked me. I didn't reply to her submission, didn't add it to the campaign key. I just downloaded it and tucked it into a private folder on my laptop labeled Real. That night, I let the tears come, not from sorrow, but from something sharper and almost beautiful. Sometimes the people closest to you never see who you are, but strangers, they'll look straight through your work and glimpse your soul. The night before the celebration dinner, we gathered at my parents' house. It wasn't formal, but it followed the same pattern as always. Daniel's career updates, my silence, and my parents' applause for the son who never missed a step. My mother served her baked casserole with quiet pride. My father laid out the dishes. Daniel arrived late, carrying a red blend bottle that earned 5 full minutes of my mother's delight. I brought only a story. No one asked to hear it. Daniel jumped in the moment we sat down. They're giving me oversight of 2 more teams, he said while carving into the casserole. I'll be flying to Dallas often now. Big expansion is coming. That's wonderful, my mother beamed. And your bonus? Should be about a $34,000 bonus this year, he replied casually, like he was mentioning groceries. My father nodded. Beaming with pride, son. I cut into my salad, listening as if it were a scripted sitcom where I didn't have a role. Finally, I tried to join in. Actually, we had a user in Riverbend, 92 years old, who connected with his great-granddaughter over video for the first time. He thought he'd never get to tell her happy birthday again. I looked up, waiting. My father raised an eyebrow. That's nice. Still on that small project of yours, right? It's not exactly small, I began. Daniel chuckled, brushing it off lightly, the way someone laughs at an old hobby they've outgrown. My mother leaned forward, cheerful but firm. Don't mention that at the dinner tomorrow, okay? Claire's family values structured careers. I don't want them to misunderstand. I nodded, but under my skin something simmered. After dinner, while clearing plates, my mother handed me a stack and sighed aloud as though speaking only to herself. At least Daniel makes us proud. I froze, then carried the dishes to the sink, rinsed them under cold water, and excused myself early. On the walk back to my small loft above the thrift shop, I didn't feel livid. I felt empty, like frost spreading quietly across glass. That night, an email waited in my inbox. From the Northwest Innovation Council, Mindbridge had been chosen as a showcase project at their upcoming forum. My name, founder and lead developer, was printed right there in black and white. It should have felt like a triumph. Instead, all I could think about was how little it meant to the very people I wanted it to mean everything to. Because the deepest cut isn't being ignored by strangers. It's knowing your own family never even looks long enough to decide if you were worth recognizing. 10 days before the dinner, my mother sent me an email. Subject, let's make a great impression. 3 attached photos of suits, 1 tan, 1 stiff and dark, 1 with the shine of a 1990s anchor. Underneath she wrote, don't wear anything too plain or too dark. This time you should look respectable. That last line stuck. This time. As though I had failed every other chance to present myself as someone worthy. It wasn't the first time she'd tried to rewrite me. In grade school, she changed my outfit minutes before picture day. Blue makes you look worn out. At a friend's funeral, she scolded me for wearing black. Grief shouldn't be that heavy on display. But this time, it ended with a line I couldn't unhear. Claire's family has high standards. Please don't bring embarrassment on us. I sat in the glow of my laptop screen, not livid, not broken, just cold again, the kind of frost that settles deep and refuses to melt. When I was 13, I skipped soccer tryouts to Dr. a charcoal portrait of our old dog Baxter for the school art fair. I remember feeling proud, carrying the sketch home like it was proof I could create something real. My mother glanced at it, then at me. That's nice, but don't let people think you're different. It's better to blend in. That was the day I learned which parts of myself were unwelcome. Anything that didn't fit neatly into a grade report or a college admission letter was better hidden. Decades later, nothing had changed. I was still being told what costume to wear so I wouldn't embarrass the Whitfields. That evening I called Daniel. Be honest. Do Claire's family actually care about dress codes, or is this just Mom again? He hesitated. I think Mom's just stressed, man. You know how she gets. And that was it. No challenge, no pushback. The rules of our family were simple. Stay in the lines, don't question, don't make it complicated. I hung up and stood in front of my closet. 2 suits left from years ago. 1 slate, still neat enough. I chose it. Not to rebel, not to provoke, just because it was mine. I was tired of dressing for someone else's version of me. That afternoon in Fairhaven, the sky was heavy and gray, the kind that pressed down like wet concrete. Inside the corner cafe, warmth glowed from the windows. Across from me sat Sophie Lane, our 19-year-old intern at Mindbridge. Her chipped nail polish tapped against her notebook as she sketched out interface changes. What if we replace the icons with actual words? She asked, between sips of chai. Most of our users aren't familiar with symbols. She wasn't wrong. I listened, half-focused, half-distracted by the hum of jazz overhead. Then a voice from the next table broke through, trembling, but clear. Excuse me, are you Erin Whitfield? I turned, surprised. Yes, ma'am. Her smile bloomed instantly. I just wanted to thank you. My father, he's 86. After his stroke, we thought he'd given up on everything. Last week, he sent me an online message, just 1 line. Love you always, Dad. It meant the world to us. That was because of you. I nodded, unable to find words. After she left, Sophie's jaw was still slightly open. You didn't tell me people recognize you. They usually don't, I said, sipping coffee. She studied me for a moment. Does your family know what Mindbridge is really doing? I stared at the steam curling from my cup. They know, I said slowly. They just never asked. The words settled heavy between us. She didn't press. For that, I was grateful. Later at the office, an email caught my eye. Community Tech Outreach, Library Integration Pilot. It was from the Regional Library Association, confirming Mindbridge as the chosen program for 12 rural branches. It should have been champagne-worthy news. Instead, my eyes locked on one CC'd name near the bottom, Gerald Morton, Claire's father. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. The world had a way of circling back, whether you were ready for it or not. That evening, the terrace dining hall glowed with curated elegance. Candlelight shimmered against gold-trimmed menus, strings of white bulbs traced the rafters, and every glass poured came with a story you were expected to nod at. The tables stretched long, more like a runway for judgment than a place for family. I arrived right on time. Mrs. Whitfield gave my slate suit a quick glance, her expression softening just enough to say, at least he dressed decently. Mr. Whitfield didn't bother. His attention shifted back to the centerpiece as though I were just another place setting. I took my usual spot, at the end, far from the laughter. Guests floated in, showering Daniel and Claire with congratulations, toasts, and endless photos. The atmosphere buzzed with polished smiles and conversations no one truly cared to finish. When Claire finally reached my end of the celebration table, her smile was gentle but searching. I don't think I've ever asked, she said. What do you do? I answered plainly. I run a platform called Mindbridge. Her brow lifted. Wait, Mindbridge? The program that helps seniors stay connected? I nodded. Her eyes narrowed, recognition struggling to take shape. Then she stilled. That's what helped my grandpa. After his stroke, he shut the world out. We thought we'd lost him for good, but then he started calling again, sending photos. He told me it gave him a reason to get up each morning. The room's hum dimmed around us. Claire straightened suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor, Her voice carried down the long table like a rush of air. "I just want to thank the person who gave my grandfather his dignity back." She turned toward me. "Aaron, I had no idea it was you. Thank you for giving us time we thought we'd never have again." Forks froze. Someone coughed into the quiet. Mrs. Whitfield adjusted her napkin as if the fabric held her composure. Mr. Whitfield stared into his drink. Daniel's face was unreadable. Claire's eyes shimmered as she stepped closer. "Are you the founder?" I nodded. All I wanted was to help people who shouldn't be forgotten. That was all. No speeches, no defense. Just the truth I'd been carrying in silence for years. The pause that followed wasn't frost. It was weight, heavy with realization. Claire leaned down, her hand brushing mine. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving my family something we thought was gone forever." For the first time in years, silence didn't make me vanish. It made me visible. The early morning following the celebration dinner, I woke before dawn. Not restless, not eager, just steady, as if the world outside, he had matched the stillness inside me. The streets of Fairhaven were quiet, mist curling above the pavement. I walked without purpose until I reached the corner cafe where I'd sat countless mornings before. Same cracked leather seat, same flat white, no sugar. As steam rose from the machine, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. 4 words. "Anem hoi." No punctuation, no emoji, just that. I stared at the screen, my hand trembling slightly, not cinematic, just enough to loosen something I hadn't touched in years. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. It was something deeper, like a knot finally giving way. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it. I let it stay, proof of a door left slightly open. My mind drifted back to high school sophomore year, when I'd been practicing for a public speaking contest. Daniel, lanky and loud, had asked what I was preparing for. That was the last time he showed interest in anything I did. Since then, nothing but silence. That single message didn't fix the distance. It didn't need to. It shifted something inside me, and that was enough. On the walk home, I passed the thrift shop loft I once lived above. In the display window, hidden in a corner, a book caught my eye. Its title read, "Let Them See You in Your Own Light." I stood there repeating the words until finally I stepped inside. 10 days later, I was back at my desk. Late sun stretched across the room as I finalized a new version of MindBridge. This one was different. Larger buttons, simplified menus, voice-guided tutorials. It was tailored specifically for the care facility where Claire's grandfather lived. I bundled it with lifetime access, priority support, and shortcuts for family calls, music, and digital books. A project not just for users, but for one family who reminded me that even forgotten voices deserve to be heard. I loaded the finished build onto a data stick, slipped it into a tan legal folder, and placed inside a handwrit. 10 note. No name, no sender, just a few steady lines. Some bonds keep breathing, even when words fall silent. Thank you for giving me back a voice I thought I'd lost. I didn't tell Claire. I didn't mention it to Daniel. No one else needed to know. This wasn't about making a point or demanding to be seen. It was about returning something to the very thread of humanity that had carried me when I thought I had nothing left. That evening I stood at the refrigerator in my loft, the hum of the compressor filling the quiet. I pulled a small reminder card from my wallet, written in simple ink. Not for anyone else, but for me. I pressed it onto the door above the handle. They'll dismiss you until one day they demand your secret. No flourish, no decoration, just the truth. For a moment, I caught my reflection in the brushed metal, clearer than usual. Shoulders straight, not waiting for recognition, not angling for approval. Just here, just myself. And in that silence, I realized the strongest victories aren't always shouted. Sometimes they echo only inside you, and that's enough. That's my story, at least for now. Thank you for staying with me, for hearing what wasn't easy to say aloud. If you've ever stood in a crowded room and still felt invisible, If you've been brushed aside, misunderstood, or told that your quiet self was never enough, if you've had to choose between fitting in and being true, or even if you've never lived it but something in this story stirred something in you, drop a yes in the comments. Because sometimes one word is all it takes to say, I hear you. Healing doesn't always come from fixing everything. It begins with being seen. So share your story if you're ready, or stay and listen. Either way, this space is for us. I'll be here. We'll be here. And if this little corner of the world offers even a sliver of comfort, then maybe that's enough. Until next time, take care of your heart. And remember this, even the quietest voices matter, especially yours.